Hey everyone, and welcome back to another BeRelevant Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different, but absolutely fascinating. We're actually taking a deeply emotional work of historical fiction and using it as a literal roadmap for personal growth and self-awareness. I'm talking about Khaled Hosseini's incredible debut novel, The Kite Runner. It's an absolute masterpiece of modern literature, right? But beyond just being a stunning narrative of a boy growing up in Afghanistan, it's actually this profound study of human psychology, of guilt, and the incredibly complicated journey of coming of age. So today, we're going to run through this remarkable story together and pick up some absolutely crucial life lessons from each phase of the protagonist's life, hopefully helping you navigate your own life journey with a lot more awareness.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We absolutely have to start with this incredibly powerful line from the character Rahim Khan. There is a way to be good again. Seriously, this single sentence is basically the emotional anchor for the entire story. Now, The Kite Runner deals with some really intense tragedy, heartbreaking betrayal, and some heavy historical realities. But I want to set an uplifting tone right out of the gate here. Ultimately, this is a story about the journey from profound mistakes to hard-won redemption. It really shows us that no matter how far off track we get, the path to making things right is always there, if we're just brave enough to take it.
Now, as you can see here, we're framing our protagonist Amir's story through a very specific analytical lens, psychological research. We're pulling insights from academic analyses, like this paper from the International Journal of Creative Research Thoughts, which actually maps Amir's development onto Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. It's super interesting. By looking at how Amir navigates, or, completely fails to navigate, trust, initiative, and industry in his youth, we can extract some incredibly actionable life lessons about why we make the choices we make and exactly how our unresolved childhood wounds can totally dictate our adult lives.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds. We're going to analyze Amir's life by breaking it down into 4 distinct chronological phases. We've got the 1970s with his childhood in Kabul, then 1981 when he's fleeing to America, then we jump to the 1990s during his adulthood in California, and finally, his fateful return to Afghanistan in 2001. Each of these eras represents a totally different psychological stage for him.
All right, kicking things off with Phase 1, the culture of Kabul and Amir's childhood.
To really get the psychology at play in this vibrant pre-revolution Afghanistan, we have to impartially examine the societal structure we're working with here. This society is deeply divided along ethnic lines. On one side, you've got the Pashtuns. They are the dominant, wealthy class, historically considered the pure Afghans. Amir and his father belong to this highly privileged group. And then on the other side, you have the Hazaras. This is a marginalized, oppressed minority, often relegated to serving the Pashtuns. Now, Amir's closest companion and his incredibly loyal kite runner is a Hazara boy named Hassan. And this ethnic dehumanization sitting right at the core of their society heavily influences how Amir views his friendship with Hassan. It creates this toxic power dynamic right from the start.
So what's going on inside Amir's head? Well, according to Erikson's theories, kids need encouragement from their parents to develop a sense of initiative and confidence. Amir gets absolutely none of this. His father, Baba, is this towering figure of physical and social strength, but emotionally, he's completely detached from his son. This sheer lack of parental validation creates massive internal turmoil for Amir. We're talking intense feelings of mistrust, deep inadequacy, and guilt, mainly because he feels like a total disappointment. But externally, how does that show up? It manifests as lying, mischief, and this burning jealousy toward Hassan, who Baba actually seems to favor sometimes. Amir even lies to keep Hassan away when Baba takes him to the movies, just so he can have his dad all to himself for once.
So the crucial point here, and this is our very first BeRelevant life lesson, is that unmet emotional needs can drastically distort our worldview if they are left unexamined. I really want you to reflect on this for a second. How often do our own childhood insecurities or our desperate need for validation from a parent, a boss, or maybe a partner just totally cloud our judgment? When we feel inadequate on the inside, we so often project that out into the world as jealousy or toxic behavior. Understanding exactly where your need for approval comes from is really the very first step in making sure it doesn't control your actions.
Which brings us right to Phase 2, adolescence, exploring jealousy and betrayal. Let's impartially look at how this tragic sequence of events unfolds. After winning the fateful Winter Kite Tournament, which, by the way, in Kabul is this fierce, high-stakes battle for honor, Amir goes looking for Hassan. He finds him cornered in an alleyway by an older, sadistic boy named Asaf, who brutally assaults Hassan. Now, it is important to objectively note here that these heavy themes of sexual violence are exactly why the Kite Runner frequently appears on challenged and banned book lists across various school districts. So Amir actually witnesses this horrific assault. But instead of stepping in to help his fiercely loyal friend, he just flees in cowardice, simply because he doesn't want to risk losing the winning kite and his father's praise. And then, completely suffocated by the guilt of doing nothing, Amir takes it a step further. He actually plants his own watch under Hassan's mattress to frame him for theft, basically ensuring Hassan and his father leave their household forever.
Let's hit pause on the narrative for a second here. I want to ask you directly, how do our unhealed childhood wounds shape our adult choices? You see, Amir's betrayal wasn't born out of pure evil. Not at all. It was born out of a desperate, totally unhealed psychological need for his father's love, all mixed up with this societal prejudice whispering to him that Hassan was, just a Hazara. It's a profound moment for self-reflection. Ask yourself, what choices have you made out of fear or out of a need to just protect your own fragile ego?
And that brings us to lesson number 2. Unchecked insecurities and societal biases can absolutely push us to make incredibly toxic choices. Recognizing our own internal biases and our ego-driven fears is quite literally the only way we can avoid repeating Amir's cowardly mistakes. Think about it. When we don't heal our own insecurities, we almost always end up projecting our pain onto the people closest to us, often the ones who are the most loyal.
Moving right along into Phase 3, Adulthood and the Lingering Guilt.
Fast forward a bit. Amir and Baba flee the Soviet invasion and build a new life in California. And here we see a massive shift in paternal authority. Notice how Baba's health and social status just rapidly decline in America. He goes from being this powerful, wealthy force of nature back in Kabul to working shifts at a gas station in California. This represents a huge erosion of patriarchal authority. And while Amir finally has physical safety, he's happily married, he enjoys a way more equal relationship with his dad, he is completely haunted. He's plagued by emotional detachment, insomnia, and just the agonizing, lingering guilt of what he did to Hassan. The past is basically writing right there in his rearview mirror.
This leads us right into Lesson 3. And honestly, this is a big one for anyone focused on personal growth. You cannot outrun your past, and geographical distance does not heal psychological wounds. It just doesn't. You can move to a new city, get a totally new job, fly across the world to California, whatever, but a change of scenery never, ever cures an unresolved conscience. True healing always requires internal work, not just an external relocation.
That realization pulls us into Phase 4, the path to redemption.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive psychological pivot Amir makes. He gets a phone call from a dying Rahim Khan, who drops the bombshell that Hassan was actually Amir's half-brother, and that Hassan's son, Sohrab, is currently trapped in Kabul. Instead of running away like he did when he was a kid, Amir makes the absolutely terrifying choice to return to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. To rescue young Sohrab, Amir actually has to face down that exact same sadistic bully from his childhood, Asif, who is now a Taliban official. Amir takes a severe, brutal physical beating from Asif to secure Sohrab's freedom. Psychologically speaking, this is the exact moment of atonement. Amir's journey comes completely full circle. He finally stands his ground and takes the physical pain he avoided as a child.
And then we hit the emotional climax of the whole shebang. Back in America, Amir manages to adopt a deeply traumatized Sohrab. In this beautiful final scene, there's a group of Afghans flying kites in a California park. Amir buys a kite and fights it for Sohrab. When he cuts the opponent's string, Amir turns to the young boy and says the exact words Hassan used to say to him, "For you, 1,000 times over." He runs the kite for the boy, perfectly echoing Hassan's childhood devotion. It's incredibly moving.
So, here's our final narrative takeaway. Lesson 4. True redemption requires courage, action, and breaking intergenerational cycles of trauma. Just feeling guilty about something isn't enough. Time doesn't heal all wounds. Action does. Amir completely transforms from this jealous, cowardly child into the protective father figure that he himself literally never had. He breaks the cycle of his father's silence and his own betrayal by taking massive, courageous action.
All right, let's wrap this all up in Section 5, Lessons for the Journey.
Let's energetically summarize these BeRelevant takeaways so you can actually use them. First, examine your unmet emotional needs before they completely distort your reality. Second, recognize exactly how your insecurities can breed cowardice and toxic behavior toward the people around you. Third, face your past. Geography is not going to fix your psychology. And fourth, always remember that true redemption requires courageous action. Think of the kite as a metaphor here. We have to move from a desperate, glass-stringed chase for external validation toward a place where we can let the string out freely, achieving true freedom and self-acceptance.
I want to end on this provocative thought for you to carry into the rest of your day. What kites are you desperately chasing right now,
just for someone else's approval? And more importantly, is it finally time to just let the string go?
Thank you all so much for watching this explainer. I really hope these psychological insights from Amir's journey have given you a fresh perspective on your own path to personal growth. If you found any value in today's explainer, please be sure to hit that like button, share this with a friend who might need to hear it, and absolutely subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the lessons hidden within great stories. Stay curious, stay focused, and I will see you in the next one.